it's funny, when I first read about the logo Be Real, I'm thinking, well, the most important thing to me is my kids and how enlightened I have become because I've had, I didn't have them, but because of my two children. But then I was reading the website, and you could talk about anniversaries, first family meetings, reconciliation, adoption, challenges, and I have all of those things. Again, the most important thing to me is the change in my life because I've been lucky enough to have my two boys in my life. I was your typical gay, I shouldn't say typical, I was your stereotypical gay woman who didn't really ever want to have children, didn't like children. One of my favorite websites is After Ellen, and you listen to people like Bridget, and you listen to people like Jill, and they are particularly happy, they are particularly fond of children, it sounds like, and that was me up until about 10 years ago. And to be quite honest, I'm not particularly fond of most children still. I love my children, and I think I would be a much poorer person if I didn't have my two children in my life and what they've given me. But I really don't like most kids. They annoy me, and I don't have a lot of patience for them. But the reason I wanted to start doing this is because I wanted to. For as long as I've had my kids, I've wished I could tell somebody or impart to people who like the Jill Bennetts or the Bridgets in the world of how awesome kids make your life. I grew up, I think, in a dysfunctional family because my brother's married and he does not have any children, and I think that's because of the way we grew up. Nothing terribly bad. I think my mom was the type of person that should probably have had animals her whole life and not had kids because of issues she had in her life. So it was funny when I was seeing this thing about forgiveness after many, many years of therapy. I forgive my mom and dad. I forgive them because I think my mom did the best she could considering her upbringing. And she did the best she could as a mom. So all the issues that we've had or I've had with my mom, I've realized at this point in my life are ridiculous and I should let go. So I have forgiven her. She still annoys me sometimes with some of the comments she makes, but I have forgiven her for who she is and what type of parent she was. Because I think she did the best she could with what she had to work with in her growing up. But it is startling that both my brother and my brother will never have kids, and how I wanted to have kids, to be the birth mother for sure. But my brother has no patience for children, and he has no desire to have children. And I think that's partly because of the way we were brought up. But as I said, I don't know how I would ever say to someone how amazing having children is, and how much, for someone like me who had great difficulty with loving people or showing love or expressing love, how my kids have opened the door for me, and how empowered they've made me, and a much better person they've made me. Because when you have kids, hopefully your heart opens, and I think mine has, for my children and for other people. So it has to be real. My goal would be to try to tell people, because I had no desire to have children, as I say, and I had gone through a rough patch in my life. I was with somebody who was a non-functioning alcoholic, and was in a really bad relationship, and then I lucked out, and I was in this relationship with this person who really wanted to have children. And I suppose if I don't really think I thought about it a whole lot, but this person who I'm with now really wanted to have kids, and I kind of jumped right in, not really thinking about it, quite honestly, a whole lot, because she wanted to have kids. So we went through the process, and we had these children, and now one's 11 and one's 8, and they're the best thing. And I feel like going to telling all the people in the world who don't like kids or don't think they'd be a good mom. Everybody who's a caring person would be a good mom. And the people I see that talk about that, they're awesome people, and they would be good moms to their kids. And I don't think that everybody has to be a mom, but I think people should think about it, because having a child and that type of love is so different than the love you have for your partner or your husband or your wife. So different, and it brings so much more to your life. It's just hard to explain. And that actually was my story, trying to get out the word that as a lesbian couple, having children, even if you thought you never wanted to be a part of a child's life, is something you might want to give one little extra thought about, or talk to somebody about, because there's nothing bad about it, and anything the bad does outweigh, the good outweighs anything bad. The lack of extra time, the lack of private time, the lack of being able just to take off. Those are all kind of bummers, but those are all past at some point when they get to be old and don't want to be around you anymore. And the pros are so much more than the cons. Because my partner having children in Massachusetts, it's relatively easy, so one of the other things that they mentioned is adoption. So I did adopt both my boys when they were both 6 months of age. And that was not a hard process, but an interesting process. So legally my boys are mine in addition to their birth mother, who's my partner. The other thing is I'm lucky we live in Massachusetts, and we were able to legally get married. So that also was an interesting process, because that wasn't something. We ended up having to get married because my partner works for a company that allowed me to be on her health benefits, but then once we were allowed to be married in Massachusetts, they said, well, listen, if you can be married, if you want to continue having the health benefits, you need to get legally married, which we did. I never expected to be married. That wasn't one of the things that I ever thought. So I guess I am married, but it's still weird for me to think about. Wasn't always a goal to be married. It's a little weird. Even being a gay woman, I still have a little hard time being married to another woman. I didn't invite my parents. My partner's parents are dead, but her brother and sister and brother-in-law came to a very little wedding. No one in my family was there. It weirded me out a little bit. Even being gay weirded me out. So anyways, I made this a video letter because I'm much better with talking about things than writing them and expressing them sometimes. And if it's something that you'd like to talk about more, I would be more than happy to talk about it. One of the things I said to the After Ellen people is, I got involved watching the L Word, which was awesome. I know not quite totally realistic, but it's nice to have interesting role models and let people see that there are people like that on that particular show, and we're not all necessarily, which is not bad, but we're not all truck drivers who the negative stereotypical women. We're not all that way. We can be more that way one way or the other, but we're not all that way. But the After Ellen website is awesome. It's changed my life watching the blogs and reading the blogs and seeing all the different things that they are associated with. So I just wanted to say thank you for that also. That's been the best. I realize now, I had gotten into a rut of being a mom, which was awesome, but now I've gone back into being a gay woman also, and being involved, and that's been also awesome. So that's my story. Thank you for listening.